It is the 7th of the 2nd, 2025. The time is 3 minutes past 8, and there are very many F1 centric threads at which we need to pull this afternoon. We've got to talk about Charles Leclerc because an ex-F1 driver is talking about what he needs to do if indeed he wants to win a world championship in 2025. Flexi-wing gate has kicked off all of a sudden again. The guys and the girls over at the race have done a podcast dedicated to it, and I will give you the highlights of it. Therefore, Hamilton mocking Lando Norris on the eve of an interview that Autosport are reporting on that Lando Norris did at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, talking about all of his foibles, his mistakes, and how he hopes to grow from them going into 2002. So too we'll talk about Colapinto and the wheel proper in Formula 1. So too will we talk about Netflix. But you'll forgive me in the first instance before we get to any of those topics on the docket, because I've got a bee in my bonnet. You'll forgive me for going scorched earth so early into the stream as we go long, since it's Formula 1 Fridays, the show during which we talk and back and forth, diatribe, modes and discourse. However, you know, I put up those bloody Lewis Hamilton videos yesterday, tried to do that chap justice, do you know what I mean? Because I do feel like I'm saying that in earnest. I feel like it's a generational moment, no, a seminal moment for Formula 1. 6 million likes on Instagram, unprecedented scenes. Nobody's ever come close. And I feel like I would be disingenuous to the circumstance if I didn't talk about it. However, this is the circumstance, isn't it? This is the dichotomy within which we live as far as Sir Lewis Hamilton. Because I got a comment on the back of yesterday's videos where we talked about Eddie Jordan's U-turn, where we talked about how, what's the word that I'm looking for? How generational a moment it was, these first 2 weeks of Lewis Hamilton's tenure at Scuderia Ferrari. Like, it was important. You saw me put the bloody clips up where people are waxing lyrical about it. And I think it is critical. It would be disingenuous for me to talk about the circumstance in any other terms apart from glowing. And then you get in the comments and people are saying this. Sir Lewis Hamilton extremists and or fundamentalists are saying things like this. Oh, well done, Cameron, for taking your head out of Maximilian Verstappen's ass to say something good about Lewis Hamilton for once. Let me tell you, I'm going to be honest here, and this is really, really important. That's why, when it comes to criticising Sir Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton, I will never pull any punches. Not because I don't love Sir Lewis. 2006 is when I started watching that dude. I never ever thought I'd see a F1 driver of colour in the paddock. This was a dream. Tupac lyrics, although it seems heaven sent, we ain't ready to see a black president. Parlay that into Formula 1, and it felt like that to me as a young boy growing up in Birmingham. So Lewis was different in that sense, and I've been following him all of his career. But I say all that to say this: I can't want what his fans want because of the way they go on. They're being abbots of unreason at every single turn and juncture. I cannot. Now, not to cast the Lewis Hamilton fan base as a monolith, because I know there are good ones, and you guys go back and forth with me. See Safak and Chiba. I know you guys are sensible ones, but there is a fan base, a portion of that fan base, extremists and fundamentalists, that I can never, ever, I will not tolerate them. It's far too much. That level, no, that extent of abbot of unreason, I cannot cope with it. It is outrageous. Therefore, me and them cannot want the same thing. As much as I love Lewis Hamilton and want him to win an 8th, I don't want for them, those douchebags, those extremists and fundamentalists, to get what they want. How do you level? How do you square that circle then? Fundamentally, no, diametrically opposed are our wills. How very dare they? And I know, listen, you know that we build this community so that we can go back and forth in a way that's respectful. Talk about Formula 1 each and every single time. Go long on a Friday. Do you know what I mean? This is what the channel's for, but in a way that's respectful each and every single time. Banter, of course, but disrespect. You can't win for trying, Talk about Max Verstappen. Oh, stop glazing Max Verstappen. Well, forgive me for enjoying excellence in F1, just as I did, by the way, in 2007, 2008, when Sir Lewis first came in. But they weren't there then because they are Netflix Drive to Survive merchants. Sewer urchins, per se. Bloody Nora F1 boy. Honestly, it's techie, this. What's Smesh saying? Cam, Smesh, you see, Smesh, Smesh, you are the sewer urchins about which I'm talking. Next time, Max, I'll tell you what I'll do for you, Smesh. Next time Max Verstappen puts in a God tier lap, I will cite you directly. How very dare you, chap? People that don't know me, don't know who I am, think that because I'm an internet personality and I make a couple videos on YouTube, that you can level such a criticism at me. This makes no sense, Smesh. But again, it does yourself a more of a disservice than it does me, speaking about something that you know nothing of. But you know what, mate? Welcome to the party. He's just started to enjoy F1 in 2020. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm not going to proselytize you. Welcome, sir. But like, get your feet underneath the table. Let's have a conversation, a proper one. Anything that's disrespectful shall not be tolerated. Scroopy, we can't, honestly, Scroopy, it's gotta get techie. We're getting techier than techie things on the back of some of those comments. I just cannot. I cannot anymore. I'm through with it, done. So the next time Max Verstappen, and you know what? This has always been excellent. Whoever goes on the best, I will celebrate them. If Fernando Alonso does incredibly and holds off Checo Perez at the Brazilian Grand Prix like he did a couple of years ago, then I will celebrate it. If Sir Lewis puts in another lap a la 2018 Singapore, then I will celebrate that too. Another race like Brazil 2021, then I will celebrate that too. If Max does another Brazil 2016, 2024, then I'm going to celebrate that too. What are we doing here? Smesh, how very dare you, chap. You know nothing. Nothing, absolutely zero. But that so typifies the community about which I am talking. But I digress. Let's talk about Charles Leclerc. I had to get, is it really bad, Gregorio? You guys let me know. The audio isn't that bad. I apologize if it's bad. It's because I'm shouting, losing my mind out here. I apologize if the audio is bad, but I digress. Let's talk about some Charles Leclerc. Because XF1 driver Jan Lammers has said that Charles Leclerc might need to do something different, that dude, modern day journalese, aka, that he makes too many mistakes, that the Monegasque might need to relax himself going into 2025, that he has all the requisite materials, no minerals, to win himself a championship. But now he's going to be alongside a fire-breathing dragon in one Sir Lewis, Carl Davids and Hamilton, and that will make a difference. It's a different level of pressure, different level of expertise and or experience, so to a different level of marketing that Sir Lewis and Brand Hamilton brings with him. Therefore, Charles Leclerc, some might say, will no longer be the one that draws the most PR and media attention. That will, of course, go to Sir Lewis Hamilton. And if that the fella from Stevenage, 7-time champion settings, can start to pair that up with God-tier performances, then oh, the humanity. XF1 driver Lammers says the following: they both, Hamilton and Leclerc, have the skills, but maybe Leclerc needs to relax just a tad on one hand. Sometimes he drives too fast, and because of that, there is a mistake here and there. No kidding, Sherlock. Said for the longest time, right, about Charles Leclerc, that he just makes too many mistakes. That's just the truth. Regardless of what sort of abbot of unreason fountain from which you want to drink, the truth is this: as brilliant as he is, historically, maybe not last year, but prior to, erstwhile, Charles Leclerc, aka modern day journalese, has made far too many mistakes. Andre Vasseur might be person of the year 2025 if he can get one of those Ferrari bods to lift silverware of the drivers' championship variety. Let's talk about Flexi-wing. Madeline, Max eats Hamilton for breakfast. Oof, say it ain't so. See, the problem with Madeline, it depends on which Lewis Hamilton turns up for 2025, does it not? It's techie. It is very, I'm telling you, it could be very, and it also depends on what sort of Red Bull RB21 turns up in 2025. Then that's where it's going to get techie. Telling you, speaking of which, let's talk about Flexi-wing, because the boys and girls over at the race, a la Ed Straw, I forget the other bod's name, Jonathan Noble and Mark Hughes, the legend that is, of course. They did a brilliant podcast. Go and check it out. And they talked about all things Flexi-wing. Mark Hughes set the tone, the context as follows. The reason why the Flexi-wing stuff was so important last year is because over the course of this rule and reg spec, slowly but surely, they've managed to mitigate for porpoising. Remember, every time they tried to run this set of ground effect cars super low, it was porpoising in 2022. Now, however, they've designed the cars sufficiently robust and capable to where they can run the cars super low and access, therefore, that god tier level of downforce born of this rule and reg spec ground effect car. Tick, happy. Therefore, that's no longer the bottleneck. Can run these cars super low. The bottleneck was always going to be the front bloody wing. Why? Well, because ground effect, fundamental to this nature of car, is as follows. When they're going quick, you get this god tier level of downforce. So see Maggots and Beckett's as an example. You're going to get a ton of downforce through there. Ergo, through there, you'd want to back off your front wing, even have less downforce on it. If you have too much downforce on it, you're going to be too pointy at the front and too unstable at the rear, therefore. But in doing that, therefore, going through, let's say, a lower minimum speed, medium duration turn, RASCAS as an example, there you're going to understeer, aren't you? Because you've backed off the wing sufficiently, too much even. Now, if you could somehow, I don't know, let's say a Flexi-wing, have a Jekyll and Hyde of a front wing that backed off during the fast bits and that came into play during the slow bits. That's a eureka moment, therefore. And let's say you're a McLaren and you had somebody like Rob Marshall, let's say, a dude who is the last front wing bender, that dude who knows more than Flexi-wing than anybody else up and down the grid. Let's say you had that chap and you were McLaren and you were to bring an upgraded Flexi front wing and so to a mini DRS rear wing to the Miami Grand Prix, then that's god tier, right? Then that's how you become ostensibly the market leading car, the fastest of the 20 on the grid. That's how you nail it, and that's what McLaren did last year. Now, on the back of that, there's been all this politicking. Something called a TAC, a technical assembly committee or something like that. I can't remember the meaning of the acronym. But to that point, Christian Horner and Zach Brown have been going at it in the off season. Now the rumor is that Christian Horner wanted, that was in the background, they've been developing this Flexi-wing because Flexi-wing gate, that is the battleground upon which the 2025 season will be fought. Last season of this rule and reg spec, by the way. Now your Flexi-wing, now your underfloor and your Venturi tunnels, and in tandem, the symbiosis of that as far as the accessible downforce is god tier. That's what they're looking to do. Now in the background, all season long last year, Christian Horner begged the FIA to sort out their load test. Beg Nicholas Tombiasis, sort it out. You can see at the Italian Grand Prix that Lando Norris's front wing is doing one of these proper mohawk settings, sat up, orthogonal, perpendicular to the tarmac even. And that's nothing if not Flexi-wing. Then Tombiasis and the FIA said that they weren't going to change their load test. Now, however, over the past couple of weeks, they've changed it. 15 millimeters was the amount that they were able to flex last year per the rules and regs. Now that's 10 millimeters. I think that I'm talking about the outboard portion of the front wing. On the inboard portion, it was 5 millimeters, now down to 3, and that's got to make a difference. Who does that benefit though? This is the argument that we're having in real time. Does that benefit McLaren with Rob Marshall, who's so brilliantly able to mitigate and circumvent the rules? Or does that benefit a Red Bull who are coming at Flexi-wing, and so its advantages and lap time upsize, brand new and afresh? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know. How much do you think the removal of Frick and Das hurt Mercedes' competitiveness the past few years? Massively. Patrick, the word on the F1 curb is that as far as Mercedes, all of their downforce was tacked onto the car. None of it was inbuilt. It wasn't an aerodynamically efficient machine. That's the way that Adrian Newey built his cars forever, especially through the late 10s, early 20s. 2021 RB16B, super aerodynamically efficient. So you lift and drop that philosophy onto the 22 car and you're gonzo, right? Easy money. That's word on the F1 got. Juicy background story. Horner begging and crying. Yeah, listen, it's all about politicking, right? It is all about politicking. They're going to be fighting this fight on all fronts. Whoever gets it right, again, it's going to be techie. Spanish Grand Prix, sorry, for the avoidance of doubt, these rules, the new margin for error, the new flexible wing tolerance at the front, come into play at the Spanish Grand Prix. Therefore, you're going to have almost like a two-tier championship, right? These guys will have been designing already and developing, due diligencing for, R&Ding for God tier flexi wings with a margin of error, a flex of 15 millimeters. Now all of a sudden it's going to be 10 millimeters as at the Spanish Grand Prix. So what do you do then? Like, what's the plan? Do you already diversify your resources? I don't think they can afford to, especially not the bulls that are red, not McLaren neither, because there's so much lap time to be gained. Lest we forget, Max Verstappen at each and every single juncture was complaining about the brake bias being on -5 with a view to get that nice front-endy handling dynamic that he loves. And all the while, he couldn't steer the car on those slow turns at Hungary and at Austria as an example. Therein lies most of the lap time that these guys and girls are going to have access to as far as upside. It's going to get techie, ladies and gentlemen of the F1 Duo, and I can't wait to see it. By the way, let's talk about Hamilton mocking one Lando Norris. Article courtesy of our mates over at F1 Oversteer. Last year, Qatar Grand Prix, Hamilton said as follows to George Russell: "You should win today the sprint. I don't think Lando's ever held the lead off the line, so you should be good. Have you spoken to Lando?" George said, "No, I don't need to say that. I'll remind him. Has he held the lead, having gotten pole all this season?" Hamilton responded as follows: "There's a lot of grip down on P1." These drivers were mocking Lando Norris, and I think there was space for that. Lando was brilliant as he was the last Grand Prix, Abu Dhabi, Zandvoort too. Some of the qualifying laps, I mean, but Senna-esque, some might say. But yet and still, execution even was something that he lacked in abundance. Get on pole each and every single time and then fail to consolidate by dint of defensive posture and or lack thereof. Failing to switch up through the gears as well. Like, he just struggled. None of it. He did all the best things in qualifying and practice, and then when come the race, he flopped. He was a serial killer indeed. And I think the irony is not lost to me when I read this Autosport article where they detail what he said in an interview pre the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lando Norris said words to this effect: that, listen, I handle pressure really well, that you'll never see my best in the practice sessions. It will always be in qualifying and the race. Well, so it should be too as a Formula One driver, but I would contend the following, Lando Norris. When you were in Abu Dhabi and there was no sign of a Maximilian Verstappen, a fire-breathing dragon of an F1 peddler, if ever you've seen one breathing down your neck, you were God tier, chap. 10 out of 10. But when you have a fire-breathing Max Verstappen breathing down your neck, you flop it each and every single time. So there's levels to this pressure game. Anybody can win from the front. Sebastian Vettel indeed made an industry, no, a career out of doing it. But when there's proper pressure, let's say a Max or a Sir Lewis, fire-breathing dragon settings, the type who will not hesitate to pull the trigger if there is a whiff of an overtake available, then that's different. Is it not? But I digress. Let me read this out from Lando, because I think it's going to get techie. Because you hear of Lando Norris and George that they're ready to fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. Really, Lando and George. George came out yesterday and said that he's ready to fight. That the car, the Mercedes one, was good in parts last year. And when they had the opportunity to win, a la Spa as an example, they won. Whilst that's true, George, I'm not sure that you're ready for this championship smoke. It's easy to win a single race, right? But to be consistent over the course of 24 is techie. A different proposition altogether, is it not? Here's what Lando had to say. I probably learned more in the year than I've learned in like the last 3. I learned more about how to win races and how to be in a position of fighting for a championship. It's true to say that I was never neck and neck in points with Max Verstappen. I never put him under pressure as much as I would have liked from a championship point of view. People are right when they say that I was not close enough to him, but it was still a fight, definitely. We put a little bit more pressure on Red Bull, and I was the one who had the chance to put him under pressure. I'm proud of that. That was us. That was McLaren. No one else was doing it. True, Lando Norris. I feel like there's learning points for this chap here, and McLaren too, but I feel like they're still busy basking in the glory of silverware of the constructors variety, and I feel like this might poison their campaign in 2025. I feel like they're celebrating more than they have to celebrate. The drivers is what we're all concerned for, right? And Lando Norris had that it was in his grasp, and he seized yet again defeat from the maws and jaws of victory. Lando Norris continues. I felt it because I knew every session I did because of how big the points gap was, that Max would need a bad weekend to have second or third. I had to execute a mate. How very dare you use that word, execute, Lando Norris. I never performed. This is an interesting bit. Here's what Lando had to say. I never perform as well in practice sessions or in test sessions. I perform way better under pressure of qualifying races, that kind of thing. I don't know. Is he having a giraffe here, chat? Is he meaning that seriously? It depends, Lando. Listen, like Abu Dhabi, you go gangbusters, you're incredible then. But if you've got real pressure, there is levels to these pressure games, right? Pressure in the form of, I don't know, a foursome, say soon to be 5-time champion in Maximilian Verstappen, or, I don't know, a Sir Lewis Hamilton 7-time champ, soon to be 8, some say. Like, if that's the type of pressure that we're dealing with, I would argue, Lando, that if past this prologue, that you don't cope very well in those circumstances, particularly if you've qualified in first, on pole, and your goal is to consolidate for that position. Defensive posture, lack thereof, switching up through the gears, defending the inside line to a Maximilian Verstappen into turn 1. These are all things that in your 6th, now 7th year, I would hope that Lando Norris will be acutely aware of. He continues, that's how it's always been through my life. The pressure thing, better in the race than quali than test and practice. For whatever reason, when it comes down to it, to what needs doing, what needs to be done in a qualifying session, I can do it. In the past, I said it feels a lot of the pressure. Well, it feels a lot of the pressure. I'm nervous. People have the wrong perception. People think it makes me worse, but it depends how people use it. For me, I thought it's always made me better. Max puts in incredible drives such as Brazil. We couldn't have won the championship. What are you saying, Lando? Of course you could have. But for all the bloody mistakes, you could have won it. Max was brilliant, right? But he didn't have the car, the requisite minerals or wheels underneath him. So what are you saying here, Lando Norris? Of course you could have, chap. There is a fine line between delusion and something else. Listen, let me not be too harsh. We could have won the championship. Max hasn't had a bad result. When we look back on those things and say, if I would have won here, it still wasn't enough, mate. I don't know, but they need to analyse that whole season, post-mortem it, understand in earnest what they could have done to fix for some of those mistakes. Because I think, as at the 7th of the 2nd, 2025. I'm not sure that Lando, in conjunction with Andrea Stella and Zach Brown, have had an honest enough conversation with themselves to facilitate an improvement, continuous improvement, sufficient to win a championship in 2025. Lando chokes once it matters. Champ 92 says, I hope desperately that moniker doesn't stick. I hope desperately, but I don't disagree with you. Not as at February of 2025. I think you're on the money. There, chap Madeline says Lando is terrible. You should have won 10 races last year. I don't disagree. Having a giraffe, that's a good one. A bit of Cockney slang, Macon. I get that from the lad Tomo. Tom always uses a bit of that god tier F1 content creator, by the way. Slam the like button, Gazans, you're a legend. James says, if Lando wants the WDC, he needs to be more consistent. I don't disagree. What do we talk about? The rookies, brilliance or crashes? Go on then. Let's talk about that. Look, there's always going to be an answer. Before we talk about Netflix and Colin, in fact, as good a segue as I've ever seen, let's talk about Colapinto. Because here's what they said about him. F1 oversteer again, legends of. According to La Nacion, Colapinto did an ultra-professional, quote, very serious and transcendent job in testing. This will certainly put the 21-year-old in good stead to impress Alpine in his new role, whilst also adding fuel to the fire that Jack Doohan will be dropped in favour of the Argentine. I feel bad for Jack. This is a poison chalice of a role. It seems obvious to all concerned that Fabio Briatore is prioritising one Franco Colapinto to drive in that Alpine as soon as bloody possible. And how does that make Jack Doohan feel? Finally, the Lord giveth, the F1 gods giveth and taketh away. It almost feels like they've now given him his shot, Jack Doohan, and now they're seeking to take away before he's even got in that seat proper, before he's even buckled up his 6-point harness. Like Franco Colapinto is there. And why is that the truth? Well, for a couple of reasons, principal among which Fabio Briatore as an executive advisor to Alpine. Some say that he's there with a view to build up that team's asset value to sell within the next 3 or 4 years though. How do you do that? Well, a dude like Franco Colapinto looks like the twin of Senna, comes with a SH1T load of financial resource by dint of Carlos Slim's sponsorship. Put him in the car now. Surely that's a bigger story than Jack Doohan, is it not? Put him alongside Pierre Gasly. That is nothing if not blockbuster. And I know that Fabio Briatore will be looking at the pictures, the Instagram engagement of Sir Lewis, Carl Davids and Hamilton over the past couple of weeks, just fiending to get his hands on one Franco Colapinto. And one might argue that Franco Colapinto could even, notwithstanding all of the aforementioned marketing behemoth settings, even be a better driver than one Jack Doohan potentially, particularly if we're considering Jack Doohan's showing 17th Abu Dhabi Grand Prix last year. Didn't do anything, but he deserves a shot now. I think he deserves a shot. Antonelli's greener. It is greener as a tree, yet they seem like Senna. We'll talk about Antonelli another day. I feel like the thing with Antonelli, I've heard too many people say it now. You know, ultimately, it is hypotheticals. This is conjecture and speculation about how good Kimi can be. It is. But when you hear it so many times, when when everybody's got their evidential ducks in a row. I've heard it from Karen Chandak, who cites F3 engineers. I've heard it from Mark Hughes now. Toto Wolff says that Kimi Antonelli can be a generational driver. There are too many wise folk of infinite F1 knowledge who are all saying the same thing on Kimi Antonelli. And then you see the bloody lap that he puts in FP1 at the Italian Grand Prix last year and understand that it was the opening couple of minutes of the session, right? And even at the end of that session, even the likes of Lewis and Max still weren't carrying the same minimum speeds that dude was able to carry through Ascari and Lesmo won until that has to mean something. Maiden voyage in an F1 car, proper debut performance. I don't know. Mark Hughes says it best in the book The Unstoppable, that when you're gauging a rookie, you don't necessarily gauge a rookie by how consistent they are. It's too early for that, too soon. You gauge them by how good they are on their best day, not how long their flame burns for. That will come later when they're veteran, when they've got more experience under their belt. But how brightly it burns, that's how you gauge a rookie. And I feel like Kimi Antonelli, notwithstanding having yeeted it into the barrier, I think he passes the smell test, Jack. I'll be honest with you. I've high hopes. I know F2 he didn't nail it, but different circumstance, different car, new spec of car, by the way, that everybody's getting used to. And if they rate Ollie Behrman so highly, and then Kimi Antonelli, notwithstanding Ollie Behrman's appearances in F1 2 of last year, even normalised for those, I think Kimi Antonelli still would have beat him. And Ollie Behrman is not a shabby peddler. So that's just F1 maths. No, counting is what that is. Compare and contrast. Oh, and by the way, then we have no way of knowing how Antonelli will perform. We need to see him in a few races to have an idea. Maybe he is great, yeah. Maybe he's great. Maybe he's not. It's hard to say. Later, we can't use F2 to measure. I know, I agree with you. You've got to normalise for too many different variables as far as Antonelli's F2 performances. How many times he wasn't in the car. How many times Behrman wasn't in the car. It's too... It wasn't a straight fight. They bring Kimi along slowly and don't pressure him. He will thrive. And that's key, isn't it, James? Could you not say already that they've failed that test? Is this not a bit too... I mean, he's only just passed his bloody driving test now in real life. Eh? But then naysayers, those who disagree with that thesis, will just say, well, just look at Maximilian Verstappen, right? He jumped in the car, he was barely 17 years old, like when he was in a Toro Rosso proper. So I don't know if they're good enough, they're old enough. Let's see what happens with Kimi Antonelli. Go on then. Final topic on the docket. Let's talk about some Netflix, because it's getting chaotic out here. For the avoidance of doubt, to contextualize this, because context is always key. Netflix fancy themselves some F1. Why? Well, because there is that seasonality with F1. It's not like you don't need to go and produce the content. It's like YouTube, the geniuses at Google. Set up a platform and the content just comes to you for free almost. Sports is not dissimilar, because you pay your rights and then somebody just makes the content for you, right? The plots fuel themselves. There's no need for a script or a production house. Do you know what I mean? You don't need writers. Okay, so maybe for Drive to Survive portion, but for the sport proper, Netflix understand that there is money in that. So too, the broader context is that F1 is doing one of these. Netflix don't share their numbers, but they will see it in Netflix Drive to Survive. They will see that the mainstream audience of Formula One is doing one of these, and they are close to the blast radius still. One might argue that over the next 10 years, you could see double the audience as far as mainstream eyes coming to Formula One that it's done over the last 5, and that's chaos. You want to invest in that if it's a PLC now, and so too do Netflix. They understand more now than ever that sports is where it's at. Why? Because they just started streaming. They've agreed, isn't it, a 1 billion dollar deal with WWE even over the next 10 years. $1 billion deal. I feel like it might be multi-billion dollar. Don't quote me. That means something. It has to matter. So too boxing. Not long ago, it was Jake Paul and Mike Tyson on their NFL over the course of the Christmas festive period now. They understand, and they're looking to broaden and diversify their sports broadcasting portfolio. Now, writes Autosport, there is news that Netflix could be entering the race to bid for Formula One rights in the US. That wasn't unexpected, say Autosport. However, it could have massive repercussions on how the series is broadcast in the UK and elsewhere. Let's go. I say to that this. Here's hoping that Netflix buy all the bloody rights, because remember, there is such a thing as NordVPN. If they can get hold of the US rights, do not think for a second that there won't be a gazillion people in the UK and Europe ready to cancel, Italy too, and Germany, ready to cancel their 90 quid Sky Sports subscriptions with HD TV in an instant, if indeed that meant getting a hold of F1 TV Pro, or better yet, utilising a £10 subscription with Netflix. Oh, the humanity. It would be perfect. F1 fans around the world would rejoice, would they not? Money back in the pocket in an era typified, no, characterised by bloody stagflation. If we put on our economic caps for a second and connect these dots, interest rates are high. In the UK, some people are having to choose between heat or heat. So extensive is the cost of living crisis. And Sky Sports want people to pay £90 a month. Give me Netflix every single... Honestly, I would pay a lot of money to see the broadcast change with immediate effect from Sky Sports to Netflix. I've been looking for an excuse to cancel my Sky Sports F1. £90. What for? So it's ridiculous. It's extortion. even, particularly as these guys and girls. When you watch Sky Sports, what am I getting extra? What are they telling me genuinely? Other than Martin Brundle from time to time, Crofty when he's telling me that I can't look up on the internet. That's why I watch sports, right? Please see as your exhibit A, the insight or the basketball guys. It's Kenny and it's Shaq. As your exhibit B, please see Kate Abdo and bloody Micah Richards on Jamie Carragher on CBC when they broadcast Champions League. Sky Sports do it very well as far as English Premier League, but Sky Sports F1 are a gazillion years behind the curve, and that's why I say I would love if they just transferred, lifted and dropped the existing coverage and put it on Netflix, because I would save a bag of money, and I think Netflix might do it better. Okay, so some will say they dropped the ball when they were broadcasting Tyson and Jake Paul. Yeah, they weren't great and live wasn't fantastic then, but now as we speak, they'll be getting experience with WWE in real time. They couldn't drop the F1 ball, could they? They simply couldn't. They couldn't, Morel. I don't think they could. They would have to learn that after F1 TV works for me, says B. Menden. You know what? We're in the UK, so we need NordVPN. It's complicated. I was listening to it, and colossally, that's history. Matt Bishop and Richard Williams' podcast, and they were talking about Bernie Ecclestone and how he the genius that he was in monetizing the TV rights internationally. Yeah, cool. It makes sense then, but now, with the advent of bloody streaming platforms and YouTube and Netflix and illegal TV as well, by the way, which a lot of people will be leveraging, and NordVPN, make it make sense. Not in its existing package. I don't think it does. Sound is going in and out, Andrew. Everybody keeps telling me that. I apologise. Cam, your audio, Missile Res, what's going on? Oh gosh, I don't like that much. Let me have a quick tinker. Did you guys see I did indeed see Bernie's car collection. It's just down the road. Biggins Hill. It's not far from me. Let me try and do something before this internet. Yeah, every time I talk about, you see this chat, every time I talk about Sky Sports now. Conspiracy theories, Andre. Leroy, Cam, you're losing the audio. Okay, so Florina says audio is good. I think it might be your... Right, but I'll have a look between now and the next stream. You're going to have to say all that again, Andre. Oh, no, it was really good as well. Oh, bad still, says Leroy. Go on then, I'll say it again for the avoidance of doubt. Sky Sports, sack them off. Let's do Netflix. Why? Because we're in 2025, February of, and people enjoy streaming. It needs to be convenient. If we're indeed going to try and continue, audio's fine. Thank you, Andre. Leroy, just refresh your stream, chap. Every time people say audio is bad, I watch it back and I'd never see anything wrong with it. Bad, Leroy. Sound is fine, Kiri. You're a legend. Refresh your stream if it's bad. Just hit the refresh button. I can't say anything better than that. David, you're a legend. Thank you so much. Look, here's the thing for those who didn't hear. Sky is not fit for purpose anymore. People are streaming. It's younger generation, 18 to 35, right? That's who Liberty Media, FOM are so desperate to get hold of. Thank you guys for letting me know that the audio is good your end. That's who those dudes are desperate, the guys and girls are so desperate to get hold of, to capture as far as an F1 audience. I argued with Mr. Windsor, you're a legend, Macon. I argued this with Mr. Windsor, right? That the demographic, and again, I love the chats that I have with Mr. Windsor, always 10-7s me. An undefeated pound for pound, has never nor will ever lost around, is what Mr. Peter D. Windsor is. And we differ as far as our opinions on Netflix, right? I'm of the opinion, whilst it's not perfect, and whilst they leverage swearing and expletives, which I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, I would say this about Netflix, that the upside that is Netflix, by the way, due to come back on 7th of March, the week before the Australian Grand Prix, Season 5, and I think we'll all be watching and waiting for it now. Netflix is a tail event for Formula One, in that it does something that Bernie couldn't do, nor did he even want to do, that Senna, Michael Schumacher, nor really Sir Lewis Hamilton, Max can't do. Bring so many new eyes onto the sport. Make B. Menden, you're a legend. Make a story of it. Make these drivers people before drivers, right? Human beings. Let us see them in their natural habitat, who they are proper, not these neatly packaged PA shadows of human beings. I want to hear Lewis Hamilton swear, if indeed he swears in the garage. So too Max Verstappen. Bleep it out if we need to because kids are watching, or put it, 8 it, whatever, I don't care. There's easy ways around that, right? But I want to see these guys and girls for who they are. Is that so much to ask? I feel like when we get to the FIA drivers press conference, it's all very well buttoned up and yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir, these question and answers that are a cookie cutter, and nobody wants that. I'm a big UFC fan, you guys all know. There's a controversial chap on there who's fighting this weekend called Sean Strickland, and he went off on a rant in a press conference and talked all sorts of chaos about all world affairs, from chimed in on everything. If it's controversial, he talked about it in a way that was unencumbered. He was untrammeled by the track limits of political correctness. He did not care, did not give a fudge. And for that, the press conference went viral. The fight this weekend between Sean Strickland and Duplessis is infinitely bigger than it was pre that press conference. There is something to be said for virality and its ability to grow a brand and so therefore a sport in February of 2025. And the closest thing that Formula One has to that as at February of 2025 is Drive to Survive by a country mile. Nothing comes close. Yes, there is the purity of the sport, and you can tell that rich tapestry of narrative, right? Like you can go back and you can talk about, so you can watch the Senna documentary, or I don't know, read Mark Hughes' Unstoppable, and like, do you know what I mean? That will tick my box, but I'm a purist. Like I'm like the 10% right as a proportion of the total F1 fan base. So why would you cater to the minority? You want to grow the majority, right? It is mainstream eyes that the FOM are seeking because they're going to pay the bills. And Dana said he doesn't tell people how to speak. It's chaos, Snivels. It's chaos. That was the response to that. I get the free speech thing, but I mean, there's a line, right? There's a difference in extents and not kinds, I think. Miss RS, you're a legend. Thank you, Miss RS. I hope you just the refresh worked. Extreme taboo on swearing will result in the opposite to make it more liberal. Kyra, like the apologies, Kyra, if I misenunciate your name. Apropos that, Kira, I think you might be onto something. Mark Hughes has speculated that the drivers just need to all claim Tourette's, right? What would the FIA do then? Nothing. You'll do nothing. The power is in the driver's hands, and I think one day soon they will leverage it, rally against the machine, rage against the machine, even that is the FIA, the regulatory body, with all of their regulatory capture. Will Buxton has a crush on Laura Winter, but he's married. I don't know anything about this, Madeline, and it would be remiss of me to speculate without proper evidence. Champ says he's not able to survive, but yet again wants to penalise other drivers for swearing. What an ignorant tool. The swearing thing, I didn't realise quite how controversial this swearing thing is. That's not that. Listen, I will swear on this broadcast from time to time, but very rarely. I think the last time was 2021 for some reason, the last race or something. Apparently a bit controversial, maybe. I tried desperately. I think there will come a day, very nearly earlier on today, when we were going scorched earth and talking about fundamentalists within the fan base of the F1 and also Lewis Hamilton variety. Sometimes you got to sometimes an expletive is called for, right? But I try and minimize it because I know my little man can hear me, and I don't know. It's we're not rappers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Andre, great, it works for me. Yeah, you guys are legends. I don't know why YouTube's doing that, but hey, Cameron, your personal favourite vibes. What with honest take on what other drivers achieve in the races, the reason why myself and many others are subscribed. Keep the honesty. This is what Lewis Hamilton wants to do. Andre, you're a legend. And I think this is that's the bloody irony. as we round third base. Go on then, a bit more scorched earth, Cameron. How very dare those Lewis Hamilton fans? I don't even want to say, I don't think that, you know what? Can I go out on a limb here? I don't think they're Lewis Hamilton fans. They can't be. It's not what Lewis Hamilton stands for. Gatekeeping. What? That's the very thing that Lewis Hamilton has rallied against all his career. What, and you think that you're a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan by gatekeeping and name calling? Yeah, of course, mate. Those two things are oxymoronic, pun intended. Juxtapose, no, fundamentally, diametrically opposed. You can't be a Sir Lewis Hamilton fan, not really, not to your core, if you're out here proselytizing and telling people what they are from what they're not. This is the battle that Lewis Hamilton has been fighting all his bloody life. And you're looking to leverage that thesis, that bloody, you know what, let me not even get too tech. I can't. Not as he round third base. Now that Tifosi is part of LA. And even that's going to get chaotic. You know where that's going, Andre. Sabotage. We need to do like an extremist fan bingo. It's going to be sabotage. They favour Charles Leclerc. Racist attack. It's going to be all of that stuff. I'm telling you. Not that I buy into any of the aforementioned. I think it's noddy. And I think it's evidensibly incorrect. But that's what we're going to be talking about. I promise you, as toxic as it is now and always will be, it's going to get techie. Honestly, Andre, I just see Cameron, a bloke that likes F1 like me. James, you're a legend. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. In fact, I'll tell you two things as we round third base. I was talking to a friend the other day, and if I'm going to characterise myself, critique myself, I am something of a glory supporter. This is just the truth. When I see brilliant, particularly in F1, I like an underdog, right? But when I see like something that I could never do, I'm drawn to it like a moth to a flame. All of the instances, whether you're talking about Senna 93 or Schumacher at Spa, like, you know, not even at Spa, at the Spanish Grand Prix 96, I want to say. If you're talking about these famous instances of drivers doing ridiculous things, Gilles Villeneuve, Monaco, there are a gazillion of them, right? Lewis has a gazillion of them to his name. Max has loads of them, and that he's diversifying his portfolio by the season. So if you're talking about excellence, that's the restaurant at which I choose to dine, the lens through which I watch all of my F1. That I wouldn't choose to change that even if I could. And that's why you hear me going on, oh, stop glazing Max Verstappen. How can you be an F1 fan and not glaze Max Verstappen when he puts in a performance like he did last year at the Brazilian Grand Prix? When he qualifies like he did at bloody, was it Austria? Spa? You remember like what's the sixth corner poo on? Like how's he kept four wheels on the track? It's just unbelievable. I don't understand. I've been watching the sport too long not to give F1 excellence its due credit. Whether atop of it is the name Max Verstappen, Lewis, Alonso, Charles. Like, I love taking a mick out of Charles Leclerc, but he was brilliant last year. So what am I going to say? I've got to button it. I've got to take two seats and shut my mouth because he makes mistakes. Modern day journalism. Well, he barely made any last year, Cameron. So I'm going to shut my mouth for a little bit until he starts making mistakes again this year. Miss RS, me too. I've got everything on my phone and calendar. I know I've just done that as well, Miss RS. I've got everything ready to go. Although the official F1 calendar still has all day as it support. Like, sort it out, F1. Bloody Nora. We all like greatness. It's not a bad thing, says Daniel. Some of these guys achieve almost impossible things, 100%. They are sight to see. They are like a magnet. So true. Jomo, the legend. I'm not worried about so-called sabotage. Rari, Hamilton should be fast. If not, I'm switching off. Jomo, don't do that, Jomo. It's going to be one of the best seasons of all time. Get a room, can behave yourself. See, Nando, why I rate you, Nando? Because it's the banter, the respectful banter. I know you'll always pull the rug out from underneath my feet. Always disagree. Always be fundamentally opposed to everything that I say, but it's banterful. Some of these numpties, do you know what I mean? Of the fundamentalist, no, extremist Sir Lewis Hamilton variety, I cannot with them. No, I will not. And that's why I won't hesitate to pull the trigger when it talks the criticism of any driver, for the avoidance of doubt. What we will never ever do on this channel is sacrifice truth, value, nor objectivity at the altar of any one of those cognitive dissonances. Never. No, I cannot. Cam T, Leroy, there, come in, chat. I'm working in the background, mate. We've got a couple on the go. There will be a Sir Lewis one, there will be a Max one, and there will be a Yuki Tsunoda one in the first instance. Probably in reverse chronological order, but I need to get it. So I'm aware. I think the issue for me at the moment is that work is chaos. That's the honest truth. It's budget season, so I need to. Once that's behind me, I'll have some more time. I'll get it sorted. Cam should start a podcast with behave yourself, Nando. Behave. Like, stop that. Like that's on the brink. Champ. First European race. Yeah, so the round 10 is Spain. Round 9 or 10, I think, from memory. Don't quote me. But that means it's going to be like a, what's that, 8? Bloody Nora. 1/3 of the championship, yeah? With one set of Flexi-wing rules. And then the next 2/3 with an, I just don't know. I don't know. It's all going to be chaos. I can't wait. And I was going to talk about, Jackie Stewart said something really positive about Lewis, and I was going to talk about it. But all of a sudden, I've lost my appetite. I don't have it in me. I don't want to. I don't want to caress Sir Lewis Hamilton's feet any more than we have done, by dint of some of the nonsense that the Sir Lewis Hamilton extremists and or fundamentalists have been leveraging my way. Therein lies it. When you talk positively about Sir Lewis, they say, why are you talking positive now? Why don't you talk about... When you don't talk positively about Lewis, oh, talk positively about Lewis Hamilton. Well, therein lies the problem, right? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I shall not be a prisoner to that very unique brand of unreason. Cannot, no will not now. Not ever. You guys have been legends. I'll catch you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. for a cheeky briefing. Go through all the news and updates as we usually do. Thank you so much for the back and forth, the modes of discourse, as always. Fact checking me and calling me out on my ball feathers as far as F1 is concerned each and every single time. You guys are legends. How long have you been following? Janny, I've been following Lewis. I want to say 2006. So 2007. Look how you caught me on the way out, Jenny. Do you see what you've done there? Interrupting the outro and everything. It's a good question, though, so I'll answer it. I remember seeing Lewis Hamilton's face on an F1 racing magazine. I want to say in 2005, maybe. I didn't see the Blue Peter appearance live, I'll be honest. But around 2005, 2006, there was a buzz that there was this young racing driver from Stevenage. And he wasn't bad. And he was signed to McLaren. It was like, do you know what I mean? It promised much. But again, these things come and go, right? And oftentimes, the path most trodden by these hot prospect, soon-to-be F1 drivers is one of unfulfilled potential. And that the smart money was on Lewis being one of those, as opposed to a 7-time champion, the next Michael Schumacher, right? So I was always very skeptical. And then all of a sudden, in comes this dude, 2006, levels as far as his GP2 season, now called F2. And then he comes in and it's Silverstone qualifying. I'll say about Silverstone qualifying, shout out to Josh Revel, legend of F1 YouTube, who reminded me of Silverstone qualifying and the whirling dervish that was manifesting Sir Lewis Hamilton that year and that session. Like I think he was last over the line, and the way that it was inevitable. You know, the sense of, and most recently it's been Max. It's almost like a sense of inevitability with that dude in qualifying. When he's at his Weetabix, you know that there is a purple lap coming. You could just almost feel it in your loins. And this is why I always draw the dotted line between Max now and Lewis Hamilton then. The way that Lewis Hamilton qualified in Silverstone was just like, it was force of nature-esque, and only enhanced and double underlined by the commentary of James Allen and whoever else was on it. Ted Kravitz, I think, was there at the time, ITV. Like, it just felt like a moment. It felt like a moment. And that's why I get so peed off when these bods are when the abbots of unreason think that because I worship at the altar of Sir Lewis Hamilton in a different way to them, that I'm not the Lewis Hamilton fan. You can go and absolutely, you can no, you can go and do one. Renz, you're a legend. I've been watching you last year. You're definitely my favourite. Thank you so much, Renz Line. You're a legend. And listen, I'll round off on this, bookend on this sentiment. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Hopefully this year, 2025, I'm hoping it will be our year. More yours than mine, because again, this channel is built as a function of your guys showing up, tolerating me when I have my bloody tech issues, waiting on my almost incessant tardiness at this stage, which I'm doing my best to fix, but trying to spin a very many plates and juggle a very many logistical balls concurrently. Sometimes it's difficult, but there is no excuse. Must do better, Cameron, just like Lando Norris and them starts. 28 positions is lost starting from pole over the course of the 2024 season, and I can't be like Lando. Don't even want Lando to be like Lando. But I digress. You guys are legends. I owe all of the success of the channel to you. My name is atop the door, but you guys build the fundaments, the what's the word that I'm looking for? The root of this Cameron CC channel is you. It is nothing without you. The chat, the back and forth, the discourse, keeping it respectful and banterful 9 times out of 10. Honestly, I am grateful ad infinitum. Truly. You guys are legends. I will see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.